Don't smile. People will think you're having fun. Yeah, there we go. That's how it's going to be. That's how we're going to start this. All right. So, yeah, if you're married and if you don't harass your significant other, or even if you're dating, you don't harass your significant other to...
then are you really married?
Then are you really married, yeah. So you have to take turns doing that. So we're doing this, we're going to start doing a live journal because we're starting a big adventure. And I love talking about these ideas. Also, we are inspired and want to share our inspiration with others. And so we figured the best way to do this would probably be as a video journal. Let's see. I think we should probably start where we started, right? And this is... So, you know, those of us who know us individually, or maybe know us as a couple. We've been together for 23 years this summer, so married. Doesn't feel long.
No.
It might for you. But the idea is that both of us growing up had these concepts. I'm not going to speak for my wife, she can do that. But I was obsessed with the Foxfire journals. I was obsessed with farming. I grew up across the street from a farm. I was told that it was always going to be a farm at some point. It never manifested. There you go, woodpecker. I think that's a woodpecker.
Yeah,
that was cool.
So.
It never manifested. And, you know, when you go through life, a lot of things take up time. And so for us, for 23 years, it started out as the piercer and the piercing apprentice while she was doing her anthropological degree in body modification, which we talk about a little bit, and we talk about a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
And, you know, we met through body modification. We have spent our life in the pursuit of self, in what it means to become human, if that's even a thing that you could understand. Like, we both have felt our entire lives that we had part of the equation, but we're kind of missing it.
Yeah.
Right? So when you put in your adult life together, at least for us, it was difficult. For us, for at least 23 years, living environments are not always stable. And for the last 2 living environments, things have been pretty good. But there's something essential missing. And we really thought that when we moved up to Salem, this would be it, you know.
Yeah.
Having a great love of Halloween and being a very deeply spiritual pagan, heathen, whatever you want to use. I can't stand the descriptions, but we use these words because I don't know how else to describe it. Animist, it doesn't matter. We thought that would be a good step, and it was. But the thing is that Salem, as it is now, is not Salem like it was even 5 years ago. It's not the same place.
Even 2 years ago.
No, it's not the same place. And they're putting up a lot of big buildings and heavy construction, and it's starting to lose its elegant feel that it had. This Puritan, old world, this architecture feel is gone. 2015, we saw an absolutely abominable snow. It was like 9 feet in 6 weeks. It was crazy, and we had nowhere to put it. And a lot of the really cute, kitschy businesses that were part of the flavor of Salem went away. Now, there were some positive things, don't get me wrong. Like, there's some restaurants that have come up that we are absolutely in love with. You know, we are fans of food. We're fans of good food. Our favorite right now is Ledger, you know. But one of the things that's missing, and we're never going to get it in Salem, is nature. Salem has 2 choke points, and if you're in the city of Salem, you're never getting out if it's busy. In fact, sometimes it takes us 45 minutes to get to an appointment 1 town over, like 5 miles away. Yeah. And it's crazy. You can't predict it.
Terrible.
It's terrible. So we are kind of trapped in Salem, and I finally decided, we just finally have had enough. Like, I can't do another year where I'm not leaving the city of Salem. So as some of you know, we are looking at properties around the middle part of the state. I say Western Mass because anybody who lives in Boston thinks that Worcester is Western Mass, and it's not even the center of the state. So we're looking for farmland. So a lot of people have asked, like, you guys aren't looking in New Hampshire. Well, we're going to explain that, but we're restricted right now to Massachusetts, which is fine. And realistically, for farming, if you're not in the middle western part of the state, you're not going to get any farmland you can afford. Even a few years out here, you could buy some land, but it's so cost prohibitive.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's bad. And as heathens, as pagans, whatever you want to call it, we have a deep and profound connection with nature. And we need to be in nature, not just, as we've talked about, in a connection with body modification, which we'll go into, but we need to be in nature because that's where we belong as animals. We should be raising our own food and using different regenerative agricultural practices, which we will show as we go through this whole process. We're going to basically kind of show you how we look at it and what we're trying to do. We're not going to succeed every time. We're going to do things wrong. We're going to fail, but we're going to overcome those failures. And no matter what, we're going in a direction. And so we want to take everybody with us on this little journey, because I think a lot of people think about this stuff and they're afraid to do it. So sometimes you have to put your neck out in front and follow your dreams, and hopefully others will be inspired by that. And if their dreams lead them in the same direction, they'll follow those dreams.
Yep.
So,
I mean, my parents always had a garden. When I was young, I always had an herb garden. I was really bad at growing things. It's terrible.
she's better than me.
I'm much better now. Practice. But the last few years, all we've had for growing space is like our back porch, which has no sun. And
North-facing back porch on a second floor in the middle of the city.
Yeah, and I've been relatively successful growing herbs and some decorative plants and some vegetables, beans and cucumbers and tomatoes. Although the squirrels eat them all, so we don't really get to enjoy them. We have voracious squirrels on our little plot of cement and tar, to the degree that they
To drive by honking.
it is
Canada geese are migrant.
they chewed through our compost bucket and our trash cans.
Oh yeah.
I mean, nobody else on the block, just us. Apparently we have good food.
Yeah, exactly.
But last year we did berries as well.
And I've heard people are going to chime in with how you get rid of them. Let me be totally clear on this. It's not going to happen.
It's not.
Like, there's no other food. Once they know where it is, they know where it is, really.
We didn't grow any
grow
vegetables.
strawberries. We didn't grow any vegetables.
The only thing that we grew were French beans, and later in the season we picked up some strawberries and blueberries. And they were not super prolific, but we got a good handful of berries off of each plant.
But the year before that, they
ate everything.
They ate everything.
They ate
So-
everything.
which is fine. You can feed the squirrels.
They didn't really eat it. They just took one bite out of it and then left it.
I want to point
is
that
not
out.
helpful.
In nature, that's how that works.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, they'll eat all these. I'm like, no.
They're just assholes.
It's just that's their okay. Yep, they're assholes. Yeah. In nature, animals walk along and they'll nibble a little, walk, nibble a little, walk. I love how people think they're like, oh, they'll just eat this. No, like you can't plant enough crops for deer. It doesn't happen because they'll just eat the edge and keep working their way through. And if it's a bear, forget it. They sit down. It's like a fat kid at a buffet. Trust me, I know. And they'll just grab a whole bunch of stuff, so you can come out and find a whole bunch missing. So in any case,
one of the things that we really want to do is grow our own food. Even though Jay can't eat most vegetables, I have theories about how we can make that work. But that's
the whole
for another
salicylate
day.
thing. So if you're new to this, we finally figured out a lifetime intolerance that I have, which is salicylates. And what is a salicylate? Well,
it's a chemical that plants produce that is poison to animals that eat it. We have quite a high tolerance for salicylates. Salicylic acid, which is what aspirin is made up of, is one of these things.
Well,
so
we don't have a high tolerance.
Well,
for it.
no, as
humans,
generally speaking, they have a high tolerance for it. So it's in pretty much every fruit and vegetable on the face of the planet. When the fruit ripens, it tends to pull a lot of those poisons back into the vegetable or fruit, because the plant wants animals to eat it to some degree to
Like
disperse, to disperse the seeds or nuts or whatever. So Jay, unfortunately, has a very low tolerance for it. And we don't know quite what that level is because he's been poisoning himself for 40 years. We know we would have found out sooner if he wasn't a hemophiliac, because he would have taken an aspirin at some point in his life and then had a very severe reaction to it. However, because he has a bleeding disorder and
Aspirin's really
a
not
blood
only-
thinner, it doesn't really work out.
Not a good
so
idea.
so it's taken us this long to figure it out, but it explains many of his unexplainable, unfixable health problems.
So I'll just give you a little insight to it. Like, for example, the easiest ways you can absorb salicylate. So people are now like, it's not going to be like a gluten thing. Don't go running out and try to do a salicylate-free diet because you think something's wrong with you. It took years to figure this out. It's very complicated.
It's very rare. It's not common
extremely
at
rare.
all.
You're less than 1% of the population if you have this problem. But there are some things that gave us hints to it. I won't go into it here, but basically every oral healthcare product I used, almost all the soaps and lotions I used, all contain salicylate. And a few weeks ago, we tried to do a castor bean oil compress on my shoulder because I have a bad shoulder that I injured like 30 years ago, and it's starting to really act up again. So I ended up with like a form of bursitis. The great thing was that the castor bean oil reduced the swelling completely. It was actually the only thing that's worked. The problem is that's a huge concentration of salicylate absorbed through the skin, and that put me in angioedema and anaphylactic shock, and I ended up in the ER again and ICU for the second time in a year. But we now have an answer.
Right.
However, here's the thing, is just like everything else in the modern world, things are concentrated in factory farming, they're concentrated in commercial farming in a way that we feel are completely toxic to human beings.
Yeah.
We aren't going to give up our lifestyle. I think that meat is healthy. It's good for the environment if it's done well.
Yeah.
It actually can be healthier than vegetables because you're not removing nutrients from the earth, and we're going to explain that as we go through this whole thing. But we believe in animal husbandry. We believe in being near, preferably living with or close to our animals. As heathens, that's extremely important. You're an animal, you belong with your animals. Like it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yep.
On this place, we will do regenerative agriculture, regenerative grazing. We're going to raise our own food. People are like, oh, you're getting into farming. No. This has been an obsession our entire lives. Just like making things out of like the Foxfire journals or learning about traditional native healing from plants. This is all part of the journey.
Right. We're kind of just bringing everything together at this point that we've been working on. Permaculture is a bit newer to us. It's something that I've kind of read about here and there, but we've been a lot more focused on understanding it.
It was like a lot of it's like over 20 years ago, we used to pick up like Backwoods Home Magazine and Backwoods Journal and Country Living and stuff like this, that were all, a lot of them kind of delved into the regenerative stuff that is going to become a catchphrase now because it's a new buzzword, but they were doing these practices back in the 1800s.
I mean, it's traditional farming.
Yeah.
It's not contemporary factory farming.
No machinery, no chemicals, no permanent fencing unless necessary.
No antibiotics.
No antibiotics.
No worming your
None.
animals. None of that crap.
And the idea is, like, so you're going to stop tattooing? Absolutely not.
Hell no.
No. The ritual goal at this point, as has been for years, is to create a sanctuary where we can perform our ritual body modification as we believe it's supposed to be done in a natural setting. We believe that in order to help with that process, you must nurture the body with proper food and environment.
Mm-hmm.
And we intend to make this something special, a sort of retreat where human beings can come and learn about these practices and be modified in a sacred space.
And learn about other things too, because we have a lot of interests, and I would, love to teach about herbs and about runes like I currently am, and about photography. And we have friends who are blacksmiths and glass blowers and all sorts of stuff. So in the grand scheme,
Here we are.
I
Good to see
know,
you.
I know. This tree is blocking the light. It moved.
It's really nice. We'll do that. Hi, how you doing? The lighting's terrible for a video, but that's
It is.
okay.
It's all right. So we want to make a place that people can come and find fulfillment.
That's it. And then, of course, the other part of it is we both have a very, very, very strong belief. I think it's connected to the heathen Celtic ideas, but it's also part of who we are to begin with, is that you do well in the world by doing right by nature, by doing right by other people, by being self-sufficient, being able to grow your own food, being able to defend your own life, and you help society by helping others do the same and donating to that, not by forcing other people to do things at gunpoint, but by volunteering the bounty of your own labors in order to help people achieve their dreams. And we feel really strongly about this. So we could spend the rest of our lives in a city like Salem, and we could spend time going away on vacation and try to convince ourselves that this is the right place to be. And don't get me wrong, Salem in October, in the right evenings, or even at Christmas time, oh my God, is it pretty.
Yeah.
And it's lovely in the summer, but it's not our home.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, no, and it really is sad. Like, there's a couple ice cream shops downtown that do up these amazing decorations, and I will go in there just to see the decorations. I mean, I'll go in there for the ice cream, but why am I really in there? Come on. It's the decoration. But the idea is to do all this now. This is a challenge. Those of us who are those people who are really close to us know that over the last 5 years, we have diligently looked at markets and trends and real estate and different agricultural avenues. We personally write out business plans like, I can't even explain it. Like, every time I see a house, I start making up a business plan for the house. Because you're gonna buy it. Nope. Just in case I want to understand how that could be done as an exercise to get good at this. So when I see a property, I understand what its potential is and I can maximize it. We also want to do everything regenerative, so we decided to go with a homestead, and we will do this one of a few ways. People have said, well, why don't you buy a house and work your way up to a homestead? In my opinion, in our opinion, a home is debt. You buy a home, you pay a mortgage, and you live there. You buy a $250,000 home, you end up with a $400,000 home when it's paid off. You live there, that's it, it's debt. You have to pay to keep it up, you have to pay to repair things, it doesn't produce anything. A lot of people think that's the way this works, and yet this is not the way it traditionally worked at all. You had a homestead. If you were living close to a monarch or something 500 years ago, maybe you were a sharecropper, maybe you were a metalsmith, you're working in a city environment. Most people had to provide themselves with food and shelter. And that, especially if you're taking it off the land that you build and you're not moving it anywhere, it's sustainable. It's much more sustainable. So there's a few different avenues, and in the future we're going to explore all those, because every one of them has potential, but maybe not everyone's possible. And this is true for us as well as with other people. It has a lot to do with your support system and what you're capable of pulling off. And financially, we're restricted to certain things, and our business plan restricts us to certain things. But that doesn't mean you can't find a way to make it happen. So instead of finding a way to make it happen and then showing you that we did it, we're going to show you how we're doing it.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. What is the long-term goal? Well, the long-term goal is what we talked about in a rural setting, and hopefully we can encourage other people. And you know what, even if it's just encouraging them to do regenerative agriculture, that works by me. I like that. As far as the modification stuff, you know, right now, as tattooing and piercing had its heyday in the 90s, it's still popular. Tattooing's become the golden child, and everybody has a thing connected to tattooing. But a lot of it, I feel like, is done because it's done that way, and it's always been done that way in this country. And it's not the way we've seen it. It's not the way we saw piercing back in the day, when we thought it should have been done in a ritual setting. So if we can combine these ideas, I think there's a way to build many different structures into this to share this with as many people as possible and create the most good. And realistically, since we do not have children and never will, passing on the most good is the best idea.
Yep.
And charity to somebody living is one thing, but there's a famous saying like something like a human being who plants a tree who will never sit under its shade. There's something different about that. That's thinking forward. That's charitable to future generations. And we don't necessarily believe that there's only one way to live, but we have our way that we do it, and we need to figure out how to do that in a healthy, regenerative, well-structured way. And when we figure that out, we need to pass that forward to future generations so they can build on it. Hopefully, maybe my fantasy is that a couple hundred years from now, they're ripping out roads and telephone lines and tearing down buildings because we realize that nature's more important than a strip mall and more important than having a house on a quarter acre. But everybody has their own thing. So that's it. So this is the first one of these, and we will try to do these as frequently as possible. We have the podcast, and it is on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. What else is it on?
Stitcher and Castbox.
Yeah.
Yep. It's called the Sacred Art of Tattooing and Body Modification.
There you go.
Easy to find.
We were going to kind of do part of it on this, but there's so much information in there, and we've just really gotten into like the first few episodes, and it's very dense. So we wanted to have a video journal to go along with that type of stuff. The video journal is basically, we're talking about how we become human, like we said. And we feel that humans aren't quite humans anymore. They're lost, they're confused. I think the first way you fix that is get back to your roots. And the roots are harmonious living with nature.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
There we go. All right, now
See
we're
you
going to
next time.
finish our walk.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to just leave this running. We're going to try not to, God damn it, I got a fucking big root in my ass. Yay. Yay. I didn't even have to buy it a drink.
No.
Oh my God.